What's up, gentlemen? This is Rising Phoenix Podcast, a podcast about how to rise up after your divorce. I'm your host, divorce coach Michael Rhodes. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the show. This is episode 114. It's going to be another solo one, despite my whining and complaining on 113. Here I am again, but I have an actual topic that I really kind of wanted to cover. It's been on my mind for a little while, and I wanted to make sure that I got it out. It was, for whatever reason, well, I'll get to maybe why, but it was really hitting me today. I don't know what came over me exactly, but I just kept thinking about this particular topic, and that is regrets. And I'll get to that topic in a minute, but I do want to address 113 and just say, first of all, thanks to those of you that did reach out. I do appreciate it. I mean, I do like it. It's just, it also does make me feel uncomfortable, if I'm being honest. And I think that's because compliments go up against maybe my inner child, or maybe me. I was raised in a way that I was basically taught that, in a lot of ways, that I was, I had no worth. And so compliments are weird for me. I think that's what it is. Really trying to examine it. And I mean, do I want them? Do I like them? Of course. But also, I can tell you that I read one and responded, and that's in the Discord server. And then I saw some others come in, and it took me a couple of days, and some of them I still haven't even read because it does make me uncomfortable. But it's not that I don't like it. I think it's because it smacks up against, I think, my inner child, if I'm being honest. I know that sounds, I don't know what it sounds like, but I think that's the truth. And so I do appreciate those of you that have reached out. And I hesitate to say this, but I do apologize a little bit for complaining. But I think transparency is important. And I'm not trying to like threaten, like, oh, if I don't get the right responses or whatever, I'm done. That's certainly not the fucking case. At all. I just, there are certain moments in time where I'm a human fucking being. And I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I think people like Jocko, The Rock, Kevin Hart, maybe you could throw him in there, because I know Kevin Hart's a funny dude, but he also says some inspirational shit. Trent Shelton. I think these people are inspiring. Gary Vee, even, but I think that to say that they would never have a bad day, or that they never have a bad day, I think is fucking bullshit. I think life kicks you in the balls no matter who the fuck you are. And I think I think bad days are inevitable. And so I think perhaps my hope is that sharing this stuff with you allows you to see that, yes, I have bad moments. I have bad days. They have almost nothing to do with divorce in a way, sort of. I mean, that's always sort of infiltrating and permeating every fucking thing in my life. But there are things that happen that have nothing to do with that really cause stress. And I think it's important to give people the space to have shitty days and say, yeah, it's okay to have a shitty day. In fact, it's normal to have a shitty day. It's something as silly as, if it never rains, how can we appreciate the sunny days? That is so fucking true. Nobody likes rainy days. Well, I guess maybe some people do, but I don't like rain. I'd rather have sunshine all the fucking time, but that would probably get boring, I would guess. I don't know. I don't live in the tropics. So, but even those people, get hit with fucking hurricanes. So I think that while it is uncomfortable and maybe sounds whiny, and it certainly feels whiny, I can assure you, I think it's good ultimately for me to express myself. And by the way, as far as I could tell, nobody unfollowed or unsubscribed. So thank you. And I do appreciate everybody, man. And those of you that are listening, just hoping for my inevitable downfall, I think you provide me some fuel too. I'll touch on this just briefly. Someone was in our divorce support for men, which I did rebrand to a Rising Phoenix group, not Phoenix Rising. And someone, I guess, took umbrage with me doing that because they don't care for me, I guess, in my podcast. And that's fine. I'm aware of that. I'm aware that I am not a red pill guy that is going to tell you that it's all their fault, or that they're all narcissists and you're doomed. That's not my bag, man. And so I know that people don't want to hear that. They'd rather hear the other side of it. I think it's the other side. I don't know if it's directly opposite, but it certainly seems that way. But it's not. I shouldn't say side, because their side essentially is that they're going to fuck you no matter what. They're hypergamists, right? My side is, yeah, we had yes, they suck in some ways, but we had our own contributions to it, and we really need to focus on that because it's the only part of it that we can do anything about. So maybe we're not exactly opposite, but I get that I'm not giving you the message that some of you want to hear. Well, actually, you're probably not fucking listening. You probably listened to one episode and you're like, fuck this. I want someone to tell me it's not my fault. And I'm not saying it is all your fault or all anyone's fault. It's not even all their fault. Relationships are hard, man. Life is hard. So anyway, why did I jump on? What is the purpose of this particular episode? And I don't know if I mentioned it because I've just been rambling, but purpose of this episode is to talk about regrets. And this one's going to be a personal one for me, because I'm going to try and cover some of my personal regrets, because they exist. And to say that they don't is just, I think, a lie. We all have regrets. Now, there's nothing, and I'll get to sort of, what do I do about these things? I'll get to that, but let's first, dive in. And a lot of my regrets came early in the relationship. So I was with someone for about a year and a half. So I'll give you a little bit of a brief dating history of Michael Rhodes if you're fucking interested. I guess you can fast forward. I don't know how long it's going to take. So I did not date anybody in high school. I had long hair. I was chubby. I was awkward. Tall. I was always the tallest kid. And I hunched over because I hated being so tall in some ways. Now I fucking love it. But so I didn't date. I didn't go. I didn't go to my prom. I went to another school's prom. Someone asked me, some chick asked me, but that was just because she was amongst a group of people that I knew. It was actually a Catholic school prom, not all girls. It was a co-ed, Delone Catholic for those of you out there that give a shit. So I was not a ladies' man by any stretch of the imagination. I had sort of a girlfriend around, I want to say I was 19 or 20. And then I joined the Navy, and then my whole life changed. I mean, the confidence, the weight loss, obviously you can't have long hair, the discipline, the pride changed my life. It was one of the best things I've ever done. If not the best, potentially. I think it's safe to say it's in the running for one of the best things I've ever done. And from that point on, of course, I was a little bit more attractive to the ladies, and so I had a decent amount of success. But I had one steady girlfriend. Once I got to my duty station in New Orleans, yes, I spent 3 years in New Orleans, Louisiana. I fucking love that city so very much. I lived on the West Bank, which is the opposite of sort of downtown Bourbon Street and all that shit. The French Quarter, that's on the East Bank of the Mississippi River. The base that I was stationed at was on the West Bank, and I lived on the West Bank. And I had a great time, but I also had a steady girlfriend for most of it. We broke up, I think, once for 3 weeks or so, and then got back together. And then my dad got cancer, and that kind of, it was in the middle of my tour. I did my 4 years. It was in the middle of that. My dad died. And so that sort of set up a series of events where eventually I went home. At least I got near home. I moved to Towson, Maryland, and was about, like, Towson's about an hour, I guess, or so from my hometown. So it was closer to home. I sort of felt obligated in some ways. I had two younger brothers, although estranged, I guess is the right word, from the middle brother. I was the oldest. And I felt sort of obligated to the little guy, although, it was a lot to ask of a, how a 24-year-old to sort of be a surrogate father or whatever. I didn't do it very well. But anyway, so it's a long story, another story. When I left her in New Orleans, and then 2 months later, she got pregnant to some other dude. We were still talking, and it was very much, is she going to come up? I don't know. And that was sort of me being wishy-washy and unsure. I think that's kind of the story of my life. I sometimes find it hard to, it's kind of like what I'm going through now. I mean, I don't have any intention of quitting, but boy, sometimes I feel like it. So I say those things, and that's kind of what I do. I don't keep much inside, which I think is a good thing, but also sometimes I think I have a tendency to sort of, not be able to make up my mind, but I mean, there are a lot worse things, a lot worse qualities that people can have. So if nothing else, I am self-aware. So anyway, so she wound up pregnant, and so that didn't work out, obviously. And then I got another girlfriend, and we lived together for about a year. I think we were together for about a half a year, and then she moved in with me, and we lived together for about a year. I bought a house. She did not move with me when I bought the house. That was a tough breakup for me. And then I think 4 months, it was too quick, honestly. 4 months later, I met my now ex-wife. I was not into her at first so much. She was sort of more into me. I was very standoffish, very protective of myself, and thus I didn't treat her very well, honestly, during the courtship. I'm not sure why she didn't bolt, honestly. I think that's one of the things that she leaned on at the end. But eventually we did become boyfriend, girlfriend. And then I moved away for a job, but we stayed together. And then shortly after, so I had a house, I bought a house. And then a year later, I got this other job out in New Jersey. So I moved, and then we stayed together, but I lost that job after, I want to say 4 months, something like that. But my house was rented out. And so I didn't have anywhere to go. I could have potentially lived with my mother, but that wouldn't have been a good thing. See my earlier comments on a estranged brother. Again, another episode, another time, perhaps. And so I moved in with her, and it was not very good in terms of, we just didn't get along. She was very clingy. I felt smothered. It was my avoidant attachment and her anxious interacting, but boy, was the sex really, really good. And she was a sweet girl. She was. And then eventually I got my house back, and she moved in with me, and I want to say a year later or something like that, I proposed. And then probably for the first 5 years, and this is where I'm going to try and be as honest as I can, and it's going to be tough, though. I'm going to try and cover some specific regrets, and the first of those is, if I'm being honest, I put my hands on her twice before we were married. It's hard to say out loud. I slapped her twice, not at the same time. It's two separate incidences. It was a bitch move. I was a bitch. Sorry to anyone out there that's offended by the use of the word bitch. I think more importantly, she'd be offended by my actions. And I knew, and she's a tiny little girl, and I didn't like, I'm not trying to defend myself here, but there wasn't like bruises or anything of that nature. It was wrong. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't put her in a hospital or anything like that. But I knew after the second time, I was like, this is not cool, dude. You gotta fix this shit. And I think, honestly, I was really just mad at the world, and I think I took it out on her. I really treated her like shit for the first, I would say, 5 years. I actually had sex with a stripper. This is all before we got married. So I was a shitty fucking boyfriend. And honestly, I was a shitty husband. I wish I could go back and do it all over again, because like I said, she used some of that stuff for fuel to leave. She never forgot those things. And I can't say that I blame her in some regards. You know, I felt like I had made up for it. I never touched her again, including at the end when she got in my face because she wanted me to. I'm pretty sure she did. I mean, she stepped to me and she's 5'4" and I'm 6'2". So she said, "What are you gonna do?" Because I was like, "You need to get out of my face, or you need to leave me alone, or something like that." And she's like, "What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna leave," and I left. But you know, so I did work on myself. I've always been a guy that was, I would say, once I joined the Navy and after my dad died, I've always been interested in growth and trying to be better. And because I think there's a part of me that always knows I could do better. You know, I could not get angry, or I could handle things better or differently or whatever. I mean, I'm not perfect, and no one is. And so if you're not perfect, then you have things to work on. And maybe this also taps into a little bit of like sort of my self-esteem stuff. Like I feel like I have a decent self-esteem, but maybe this appetite for growth is really sort of a callback to, again, my childhood, my inner child, where I don't feel like I'm good enough. I feel like that's, if that is true about me, and if I'm being honest, it probably is, but it's a very deep part of me. It's not a surface level thing. On the surface level, I feel pretty fucking good about myself. I mean, I served my country. I have 2 degrees. I make 6 figures. I do well, although 6 figures doesn't go fucking as far as it used to. And child support sucks balls. But I've had some really good accomplishments in my life, in my career. And so on the surface, I feel good about who I am. I started this fucking podcast, and those of you out there listening that don't like me, where's your fucking podcast? Yeah, you know, I think I lean on that. I think it's a Churchill quote, like, you know, the man in the arena. At least I'm in the fucking arena. And so there are parts of me that, again, it's this same sort of duality, Slipknot reference there and by the way, I got a bit of a Corey Taylor story, but maybe another time. I sort of kind of met him, but not really. It's a long story anyway. And he's not booked on the podcast yet, but damn it, I'm not giving up. But anyway, and so I don't think that I don't, on the surface, I think I have self-esteem and I do like myself. I always say I'm putting myself out here. Like there's got to be some sort of esteem for me to do this kind of fucking thing. But also I think there's a part of me that is, you know, that inner child is sort of wounded, and I haven't figured out how to fix that yet. So anyway, so I'm getting off track. Let me go back to my regrets. Clearly those things that I mentioned, but I also, not only those stupid things, you know, banging a stripper. I partied, man. I managed local bands, so I was out of bars every weekend. I didn't spend time with her. I treated her like shit. Honestly, it all changed obviously once we had the kid. It's such a cliche thing, but I wish I would have fucking grown up sooner, because she didn't deserve any of that shit. She was a really sweet girl, and I behaved like a child, like a bitch in some cases, but certainly like a child, like a large child who, when he didn't get his own way, would throw fits and treat people like shit. And I guess, you know, she tolerated it because of her issues, right? Clearly, I mean, can't speak for her. I'm not trying to speak for her, but God, do I have those regrets. And then, you know, moving forward, you know, the regrets are once we had our first child, the regrets are further and farther between. Is that, I think that's the right way to say it. I don't have as many. I can't think of as many moments or instances. Only really one. Well, so one up until she sort of told me she wanted a divorce. So, and this probably contributed to the divorce. Honestly, we were at a party at her brother's house, and I was drinking, and her brother was kind of a dick to me. And I threw a fit like a child, and I sort of took it out on her, and I yelled at her in front of a bunch of people. And I embarrassed the shit out of her. And I think I broke her fucking heart because it was her. She's, my ex-wife does not have many friends, if any. But she's fairly close with her family. And I think I broke her fucking heart when I did that. And I think she was going through some other shit. I do think midlife crisis was a factor in this for sure. I'm trying to think if there's any other regrets, but I can't think of any because I really honestly feel like we had a decent. Well, I will say maybe when we would discuss finances, again, I didn't have the ability to like have these difficult conversations, or I took everything very personal. I'm a very emotional guy, and obviously, and I think I take things very, very personally when and I shouldn't say I'm trying to be better at that because I think it's important to feel and to I think take things personal. I mean, to a degree. I mean, obviously you have to have, you can't have your skin can't be thin all the time. But I think knowing who you are and having boundaries can protect you if you are a sensitive or emotional person. So I don't know that I have regrets in terms of that. I have regrets in terms of how I would handle it instead of just speaking about things or trying to understand where she was coming from and just trying to meet on middle ground and try to, just we're on the same fucking team. But sometimes I didn't act like that. And here's another regret. Geez, I wish I would have done more around the house. I wish I would have done the cooking because you know what? I actually don't even mind cooking. But I will say, I mean, my template was my parents, and my mom was mostly a stay-at-home mom, and she did all the cooking and the cleaning. Dad was a truck driver. Sometimes he was gone for weeks at a time. That wasn't often. It was kind of rare, but usually he was home almost all weekends. But he didn't fucking cook dinner. I mean, every once in a while he would cook dinner, and I'm sure he did things that I didn't see. I don't remember my father ever doing fucking laundry. Ever. I mean, maybe it happened, but I sure as fuck didn't see it. Or at least not. It didn't happen often enough for it to be a memory in my mind. And I lived there until I was 18. So anything's possible, I suppose. But that was my template, and so that's kind of. I wish I would also, though. In my defense, I didn't feel like that was an issue. I didn't feel like she expressed that until the end. And so I'll talk about, and some folks have do you regret the sexual escapades? And no, I don't. I had a fucking blast, man. I don't. While I think that was, at the end a contributing factor, I don't think it was the contributing factor, and it would be easy for me to put my fingers at that. But no, I don't regret that. I regret that we didn't have more open dialogue, but that extrapolates out into the rest of the relationship. I do regret how angry I got when I discovered that she was lying. And I don't know if she's seen the guy behind my back, but after she told me she was going to stop seeing him, she still, or stop talking to him, she did not. And I regret how angry I got. Again, this goes back to the inability or the lack of skills and tools to handle and deal with my emotions. I didn't have them. I didn't have a support system either. And that was by choice in some ways. One of the reasons I think I do like to get on here and express myself is because I didn't do that so much up until the separation occurred. And perhaps when we had these different issues, if I would have went to Chris and say, well, how do you guys handle this? Maybe I wouldn't fucking be in this mess. So I regret definitely my anger at the end. And I felt I was self-righteous, man. I was like, you fucking lied to me. And I wasn't wrong, but I used that as a battering ram in a way. And like, I was a total fucking dick. And I still am sometimes. I mean, I'm trying not to be, but it's really hard. Now I think it's not as relevant. I mean, we're not in a relationship. And one of the things that I think is good to remember is if you're going through this is the perks of a relationship fly out the fucking door when a relationship ends. So I don't have to treat her. Now, listen, I should have done it a long time ago. No lies are being told, but I didn't. and I can't go back. But now I don't have to treat her like as if she is my wife anymore. So if I'm a dick sometimes, so fucking be it. I wish that we could get along, but you know what? Stop doing shit. Which, as I say that shit out loud, it's on me to react in the appropriate way. But man, can you just not fucking, can we not go back to court? Can we not have lawyers? But I'm not being I shouldn't say I'm not being an open dick, because I am a little bit sometimes lately. But it sucks because we're getting along. And so my feelings got hurt. And so, but I'm also, it's also, I think, a fine line, because you want to draw your boundaries, you want to take care of yourself and your mental health, but you don't have to be a dick to do that all the time. So like I said, in 113, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still working on these things, but I think about all these things, and I think about them, I don't know how often, but I definitely think about them. I think about particular moments for sure. Like at that party, I wish I wouldn't have fucking yelled at her. I wish I would have took her to the side and said, "Your brother was really kind of a dick to me," and we would have had a good conversation, and it would have bonded us, and it would have helped our relationship. Instead, I threw a fit like a fucking child, and that's just the fucking truth. But unfortunately, I can't go back, man. I can't. And I suppose, there's probably someone out there, or maybe even me in some corner of my brain going, well, you can be nice to her now, man. Even if she is fucking you in a way, you could still be nice to her. And I know. It's just, man, is it hard. But I still avoid her more than I'm a dick to her. We went, for, I don't know, maybe it was like a week or so where we were friendly, and now we're going back to the way that it was, and that sucks. But it's also, I sort of threw an olive branch out there and said, let's not do this with lawyers, and she said no. So, and quite frankly, lawyers are expensive, man, and this single income shit is hard. I make good money and I still feel like I'm fucking broke. It sucks. And it's not just child support. Clearly that's, it's $1,000 a month. That's a lot of fucking money. I could use that money, but everything else is expensive. This inflation is a motherfucker. And so it's hard for me sometimes to separate some of these events with her actions. I mean, they do tie together, but it also doesn't do me good to stay pissed off and angry. It just doesn't. But boy, do I wish I could go back and we had this discussion, Jonathan and I, and the question was, would you go back and tell yourself to run or tell yourself to grow the fuck up? I honestly, absolutely, majority of the time, I would tell myself to grow the fuck up, because she was a good woman. I don't know what happened to her at the end. Obviously, I think another dude in her ear was a factor. A midlife crisis was a factor. My actions were factors for sure. But I don't also, she wasn't perfect though. Like, let's not get fucking crazy. And those of you out there and you're listening and you're thinking, yeah, me too. She was amazing. Yeah. I mean, she was a human. So I'm sure that she could be amazing at times, but I'm sure she was also a raging bitch at others, because we're human, man. We have faults and we have flaws. But I have regrets. But again, I say this all the time. You can't go back. And I probably have repeated this a billion times, but unless fucking Doc Brown is real, and so is a fucking DeLorean with a flux capacitor, or Elon Musk gets off his ass and stops fucking around with Twitter and builds a time machine, I can't go back, man. I can't. And so I can sit around and I can and I have these moments. I can sit around and I can go, oh gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't have done this. Or I can go, why did I do that? Why did I do this? And how do I not do that again? I can tell you that giving the silent treatment, I didn't even really talk about that. I've talked about it in other episodes, but man, that's definitely a regret. I wish I would have been, honestly, I'm going to say this shit out loud. I wish I would have been fucking man enough to have a conversation instead of being like a child and shutting down and not talking and stomping my fucking feet like a 4-year-old who got his fucking toy taken. I was not a man. I wasn't. And I'm still working on it. You know, honestly, it's tough to this is how I survived my childhood, right? This is conditioned. This is who I am because I had to be. You know, I didn't have nurturing and love and support. I didn't. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I had some. Obviously, I'm not a fucking serial killer. I mean, at least it's not as far as any of you know. But just kidding. I mean, I did okay, right? I did, but it's the emotional shit that I've always struggled with. I don't want emotions. I don't want to deal with them. Except for anger, because that one's familiar and comfortable, and then the rest I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk at all. Leave me the fuck alone. Don't tell me your fucking problems. I can't deal with yours. I can't deal with mine. But that's no way to fucking be. That's not an adult, man. It just isn't. So all we can do is just be better going forward. If we truly have regrets, don't spend if you do, and of course you fucking do, you're a human, you fucked up somewhere along the line. If you have regrets, you can't dwell on the what ifs, but what I think you can and should dwell on is why did I behave like that, and how do I not do that shit again? Because I hope someday I will be in another relationship, and I don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. But if I don't ever ask myself why or the reasons behind my actions, I'm never going to be able to change them. So I think that's all I have. I do sincerely appreciate those of you that have reached out. I didn't do it for that reason. I fucking hate that it's funny because I say all the time, you know, reach out, you know, express yourself. And then I do it and I'm like, fucking yuck. Don't reach out to me. That's not why I did it. Because it's a weird thing, man. I really wasn't my intent. It wasn't. It isn't. But nice things are nice to hear. But boy, does it make me. There's 2 messages I haven't even read yet that guys wrote that are probably super heartfelt and really sweet, and I just, but it just makes me. I will reply. I promise you that. And some I already have. I've gotten some private messages and some Discord posts, and I do appreciate them, man. I really do. And even if you didn't, it's okay too. Like I appreciate if you even had good thoughts, good vibes sent my way, whatever. Like I said, I don't think I lost any subscribers. So I swear to you though, when I do episodes like that, I always expect to because it does happen it's funny because it happens on Apple more than any other. Apple fluctuates a lot in terms of losses and gains. I get more people from there, but I lose more from there. I lose almost none from Spotify and Google. I'm sure it happens. Oh, it does happen on occasion, but it's not often. And I don't know if that's because they're just not as podcast heavy. Like if you're on those platforms, maybe people don't listen as much as Apple Podcast people, if that makes any kind of sense. Like if you're an Apple Podcast subscriber or whatever, you're probably really a real podcast person because that's more of a podcast centric thing. I think I could be wrong, but I don't use Apple because I won't go into that debate, but a lot of people listen on Apple, so I don't want to start any shit with Apple people. But I think Apple Podcast is just its own sort of entity, but I guess Google Podcast is too. But I think Spotify, yeah, it's like wrapped up with, you know, music and all the other shit I think they actually do video too. And so maybe that's it. I really don't know. It doesn't really fucking matter. But as far as I could tell, I haven't lost anybody. And I don't look every day, but I do look. And I don't look at my numbers every day, but I do look. I used to look at them every day. It's clear to me, unfortunately, due to my pulling and stepping back, I'm not going to hit my goal this year of 100,000. I'm going to miss it fairly significantly, whatever significant means to you. My guess, I'll probably miss it by about 15,000 downloads. But that's because I needed to step back. So anyway, I am done. Thank you so much, all of you, those of you that listen, comment, reach out. It is appreciated. I do see the fruits of my labor. I do see the listens. I think 113, and I know I'm releasing this one pretty quickly. At least I don't know. It's Sunday night, almost 11 p.m. It will definitely come out sometime within the week of the 18th. I don't know if I'll get it out tonight, but I might. It depends. I really got to get to sleep because I got an early flight to Chicago tomorrow morning. But within one day, it was over 100 listens, and I think it's up to 200. I think at this point, within a couple of days, it's pretty fucking cool. Again, it's not Joe Rogan gets, I don't know, 2 million in a couple of days, but I'm not Joe Rogan, so maybe someday. I don't know. I don't think that's the goal. I was thinking earlier, I'll wrap up with this. I think I said that earlier, but I promise I'm going to wrap up with this. I was thinking about what is the goal? Like, is it to be famous? No, because what does that even mean? And how do you even measure that? I don't know. When I walk down the street, if people know who I am and recognize me, maybe. I don't think so, though. I think the goal, and I really I did think about this a little bit, and I was thinking, what is the goal, right? It's not to make money necessarily, although that would be nice. And then, how much and all that. And I don't know. I mean, it would be nice to be able to equal my salary, but I don't know if that would ever happen. But I think the goal is to get to that number of 10,000 downloads a month. But I got to put in more effort, honestly. I have to. And so I'm going to try to do that. I don't know under what guise yet, in terms of like, well, what does that mean? Or what am I going to do? Or I'm going to try to get back to doing one a week. I'm going to try to make sure I'm lining up interviews. And by the way, if you are interested in being an assistant, I don't know what the fuck I could pay you, but someone to help book guests would be fucking awesome. I would pay you something. I just don't know what it would be. Maybe per guest, maybe $20 every guest you book for me. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know if that sounds ridiculous or insulting or awesome. I don't know. But it would, man, if you're interested, just hit me up, send me an email, send me a Facebook message, whatever, however you want to contact me. I think you guys have all the stuff, but just in case, Rising Phoenix Podcast 2020 at gmail.com. I tried to get the Rising Phoenix Podcast email, but they were like, well, how much you're willing to pay? I'm like, nothing. I'm not paying for a fucking email. It's not, come on. I'm not fucking, no, I'm not paying. I said maybe $20 and they didn't, they responded. It was another podcast. I don't know if it still exists. It wasn't called Rising Phoenix. It was like The Rising Phoenix or The Rising. I think I'm right. Well, I know I'm Rising Phoenix Podcast. I think they were The Rising Phoenix. But I don't know. I really like the name, so I said fuck it. And there's other like incarnations of like Phoenix Rising and all kinds of other ones, and it's fine. I don't really give a shit. I have the .com, so I'm cool with it. But anyway, if you're interested, reach out, and I know maybe we can discuss pay. I really don't know what I could pay. Not a whole hell of a lot, if I'm being honest. But maybe something we can figure out something, maybe potentially. I mean, reach out. So, all right, that's all I got. Thank you again. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Much love. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Since my separation in July of 2019, I have done an incredible amount of work on myself. I've had many different therapists, life coaches, and went through different programs. I've taken all that I've learned and put it into my own program called Forged by Fire. If you are interested in having me help you navigate your divorce, please hit my website, risingphoenixdivorcecoach.com. I look forward to working with you.